And I read something this morning, and it was by a man named he's Farzad, Farzad. I don't know him. I think he's associated with Tesla at some point. Well, Musk retweeted or reposted something he said, and he spoke about there's talk out there about children, about not having. I think J.D. Vance said something right, and about cat ladies. But that comment came from a comment that he made about liberals not having children. And I'm not going into the J.D. Vance comment, but this topic is out there of population growth in the United States, people not having children. Used to have 4 children, and 3, and then 2.5, and then we keep going down, and Europe too. And there is a consequence, and I really don't want to talk about the sociological impact of birth rates, but J.D. Vance makes that comment. Then there's the cat lady controversy. And this guy kind of is touching on that, about like what he realized is that, I guess he had his first child. I'm assuming it's his first child. And he wrote a really nice little piece and about realizing by having this child, he thinks about the future differently, and I'm not putting words in his mouth. I'm just kind of remembering and adding as I go, which is like, you can't, to think about the future and argue about policy and politics is one thing, but when you think about it in an effect of where your child's going to grow up or what they're going to grow up into, it really does change things. And it really hit me. And I thought, this is the kind of thought. And I just put the phone down and I just started thinking, which is what I usually do with my books, right? You read 2 lines. And as you get older, it takes less, I can never read books anymore. It's like 1 or 2 lines and I'm done. I go off into this thing. It reminds me of this guy, Father Ted. I always reference these priests. I was very close with the Passionist community. They're a group of monks, fathers, brothers, kind of a modern order now, but they started in Italy. I think it was in the 1800s or late 1700s, early 1800s, and by a guy named Paul. They called Paul of the Cross. So anyway, at the time they were really, really hardcore. Like, real monks, and disciplined. And they were in the monastery, and then they'd go out and preach for 2 weeks, and they'd come back into the monastery. Anyway, so this community grew, came to the United States, and I became friendly with a bunch of them. And there was a man named Father Ted Walsh. And Father Walsh was just this noble man. He was very tall, literally, and stood up straight, and he's one of those old school. He'd probably be almost 100 now. He's gone to God, but he would be about 100 if he was still on Earth. And he just was so good. He's such a good man. His speech was measured. It's kind of like what you think of a gentleman in the 1920s. Just a man, but controlled. Posture, tall, always dressed well, always shaved. And I remember Father Ted said something to me one day. And he called me Howard, right? And he said, Howard, if it's not getting simpler, you're going in the wrong direction. Right? If it's not getting simpler, you're going in the wrong direction.